Hello everyone. So today we'll talk about the topic of productivity challenge. We're continuing the topic of introduction to operations management, and we're going to have a few calculations here and hopefully finish chapter 1 today. So productivity is the ratio of outputs, goods and services, what you create at the end of the system, divided by the inputs. And of course, when you have a fraction, the productivity, for example, it's higher if you have a higher numerator or higher output. And if you have less input, of course, that also creates higher productivity. So there are two ways, in fact, to increase productivity based on the current definition that we see together here. And that actually is when you increase your output by keeping your inputs the same. So you have to keep your input constant and increase your output to have a higher productivity, or keep the current output and reduce your inputs. There are two different ways that we can actually increase productivity. The objective is always to improve productivity. Production is a measure of output only and not a measure of efficiency. So by looking at an economic system, you can see that the economic system of country, and this is a very basic model. We can see that we have a transformation or process here, and we always have some inputs. Examples of inputs that we can consider in this case: labor, capital, and management. We use procedures, transformations to create output, goods and services. Right? So the higher the outputs and the lower the inputs, that will help us to have a higher productivity. You can see that the US economic system transforms input into outputs, about an annual 2.5% increase in productivity per year. Productivity increase is the result of mix of capital, 38%, labor, about 10%, and management, 52%. Examples of improving productivity can be in Starbucks. So I'm sure those of you have been to Starbucks for years, you have seen they keep changing their machines, right? They keep changing the coffee maker. And one of the reasons is every time they come up with a new design of coffee makers that makes the process of making coffees and providing the production faster, and the number of cups going out much more, right? So a team of 10 analysts continually look for ways to shave time, and some improvements that were created in the past. They stop requiring signatures on credit card purchases under $25. And you can see it if you go to Starbucks. You can see if your purchase is less than $25. You normally don't require any signature, just pay and go. That saves 8 seconds per transaction. So imagine 8 seconds per transaction, and so let's say you have 1,000 customers every day only in one branch of Starbucks. Multiply that by thousands of Starbucks cafes around the world, or at least in the US. Then you will see how much time is being saved here, right? Change the size of the ice scoop, save 14 seconds per drink. And the new espresso machines saved 12 seconds per shot. Operations improvement have helped Starbucks increase yearly revenue per outlet by $250,000 to $1 million. Productivity has improved by 27%, or about 4.5% per year. I remember the last time they changed the coffee machine or espresso machines. It was just 2 years ago. The new machines, they produced espresso coffee really much faster, and previously it was 2. Right now they can make 4 in just less than 1 minute. So this is the formula we use for productivity. Units produced or outputs divided by inputs, or your inputs that you use, your resources. Measure of process improvement. It represents output relative to input. Only through productivity increases can our standard of living improve. So we can always compare productivity by changing the method, changing the process that we provide to produce services or goods. And by calculating productivity, we can understand, we can find out that is this new process a better process, or should we change it? So productivity calculations, let's talk about the labor productivity, for example. Productivity equals to unit produced divided by labor hours used. So in some questions on exams and homeworks, you will be given the value of labor hours used. So just use the number given to you. In this case, for example, 250 labor hours. Sometimes the labor is given separately, hours is given separately, then you will have to multiply them. Okay, so remember that depends on how the question is giving you the information. You need to calculate that denominator differently. So in this case, labor hours is given 250, production rate or units produced in a range of time is given 1,000 units. You just divide it. So productivity is 4 units per labor hour. And this formula of productivity that we just saw, you have one resource of input. So that's considered as a single factor productivity. We also can consider multiple factor or multi-factor productivity. And multi-factor productivity is when you have multiple resource of inputs, like labor, material, energy, capital, and other things, right? Also known as a total factor productivity, output and inputs are often expressed in dollars because you want to have a common unit. In the denominator, you don't want to have different units to be added. And output, in this case, is one type of output. This is an example where we have Collins title productivity, title company. So they have staff of 4 who work 8 hours per day. This is what I told you. Sometimes the information given could be different. In this case, you can see that it's different, right? It's giving you the staff separately, how many hours they work per day separately. So to know what is the hours of labor hours is 4 times 8. 4 times 8, 32. That's your labor hours. That's your denominator. Now, what's the output of this company? Titles. How many titles per day? We have 8 titles per day, right? So that's your numerator. That's your denominator. Just divide. So 0.25 titles per labor hour is our labor productivity in this problem. So now the question can be, can you improve this productivity? Yes, you can keep 32 labor hours, or you can keep 4 staff working 8 hours a day, but push them to, or manage them to increase their number of titles from 8 maybe to 10, maybe to 20, and that increases your productivity. Now let's say you want to improve this, and this time let's see what we have here. We have saying the new system, let's say the new system, we managed to help our employees to produce 14 titles per day instead of 8. Now we have 14 in the numerator. We still have the same amount of labor hour of 32. We divide it, you can see that there is an increase. You can see that there is an increase in number of productivity, value of productivity. Okay, so in this case, we have $640 per day that we have to pay to our staff. That's a payroll cost per day, with the overhead of $400 per day. So you can see that if we want to consider these two costs, these are the dollar amounts that we have as factors to consider as a multifactor. Okay, so in this case, we have total cost of, so you can see that these are two different factors. This is a multifactor. 640 plus 400, and numerator, we still have the same unit of production, which is number of titles, which is 8 titles, and it's gonna, this time it's gonna be 0.0077 titles per dollar. And again, the new system, let's do the calculations for the new system. And let's say in the new system, of course, we have 14 titles per day, but of course, increasing the number of titles per day can actually increase our overhead from $400 to $800. What that could be, buying a software that processes or make the process of titles easier, faster, right? So you're paying, if you're paying $400 more, so you can see that by changing this process and having more titles, although we can see that there is a higher cost involved here, but we still could manage to increase our productivity after changing the number. So it doesn't have to be, with this example you can see that you don't have to have the inputs or output to be constant and change the other one in order to increase productivity. But if such changes are happening, of course, it's very important to consider calculations correctly so that you really understand if there is an increase in productivity or not. If there is increase in productivity, it's good to go for that change in your system, in your organization. If productivity is not increasing, it is not recommended to have more cost. Measurement problems. So the way that we calculated productivity earlier might have some problems. Quality may change while the quantity of inputs and outputs remain constant, and that's true. For example, you can put your employees under pressure to produce more. However, their lifestyle and the way that they live under pressure, under stress, could have effect on the quality of what they produce. And quality is not that easy to measure, right? It's not like dollars, it's not like hours to calculate really quick and easy. So there are other ways to do that. External elements may cause an increase or decrease in productivity, and we might not consider those external elements or factors. Precise units of measure may be lacking, and that's true. We can't always say considering the payroll cost is actually perfect way of calculating productivity, there might be other factors involved that we are not taking. Okay, so key variables for improved labor productivity. Basic education, appropriate for labor force, and that's actually very true. And you know that currently in the US, there's a lack of, we don't have enough engineers, we don't have especially enough software engineers, programmers. So that's why many programmers come from other countries to the US and get jobs, because those jobs exist and you don't have that enough resource. Of course, programming is not the basic education, but that's something that we can always look into it. We know that by improving technology, the need to engineers, especially software engineers, and computer programmers, computer scientists, is actually increasing a lot. I even know companies in the US that right now they are using, they have staff from other countries, but those staff, they don't have to come to the US. So for example, they hire someone from Philippines or India. They don't pay like the US minimum wage. They pay like Indian or Philippines or Malaysians dollar amount, and they can pay like $1 or $2 per hour and actually have those resources. And if we can have better, in my opinion, more education in computer sciences, probably that creates a lot of more jobs for the people who live in the US. Diet, we just talked about it, for the labor force, and so social overhead that makes labor available, challenge in maintaining and enhancing skills in the midst of rapidly changing technology and knowledge. And you can see it especially these days, especially in California, right? California is, technology changes very fast in California, and many businesses, many jobs that we had them just a few years ago, they don't exist anymore in California because of automation. Things are changing, and those who don't adapt to those new skills, they have to go somewhere else that their skills are still required. And that's actually a challenge, and I know that the government is working on that to provide a lot of programs for graduate of the students. I mean, even when you graduate from school, from university, those skills you learned at the university are not necessarily updated enough to get you a job out there. So you might have to get some skills out there, like certificates, add up some certificates to your knowledge and to your CV, and say that, hey, I updated myself. And that's actually a challenge for universities, challenge for businesses, employers. That's very important. So in this case, something important: about half of 17 years old in the US cannot correctly answer these questions, simple arithmetic questions. And statistically, actually, that's kind of true, okay? Okay, capital, and how much it can have effect on productivity. Of course, having access to more capital can help you to improve productivity, automation, and increase your output. Management ensures labor and capital are effectively used to increase productivity. So I believe management is well available in the US, and that's why US is always among developed countries. Ensures that labor and capital are effectively used. Use of knowledge, application of technologies being used correctly. Labor has migrated from manual work to technical and information processing tasks. More effective use of technology, knowledge, and capital are provided with management. And productivity improvement in services is difficult because typical labor intensive, frequently focused on unique individual attributes or desires, often an intellectual task performed by professionals. And when you have professionals involved, it's not easy to manage them because they are the ones who know how the job is being done. They are the ones who actually can make changes, and sometimes they're not interested to make changes because they're getting paid, they're happy with their work, and not everyone is interested to go through a process of difficulty of changing. Often difficult to mechanize, and automation is difficult for many processes, often difficult to evaluate for quality, especially things that are qualitative rather than quantitative. So we have an example here, productivity at Taco Bell, and improvements they made to increase their productivity. They revised their menu. I don't know if you have been to Taco Bell. You get there, I believe when my order is there and I pay, in less than 5 minutes the food is ready. But of course the quality of food is the challenge, and how healthy that food is. So I don't know what you think, but if they make that food so hot, so fast, something can be wrong. Designed meal for easy preparation, that's great. Shifted some preparation to suppliers, and efficient layout and automation is done well, and training and employee empowerment is provided. New water and energy saving grills, and let's see what they got. Results: preparation time cut to 8 seconds. Management span of control increased by 5 to 30. Nacho fries are back. Yeah, okay. In store labor cut. I haven't eaten out for a year almost. I used to eat outside every day, but I haven't. More work, and scared of getting the virus. So floor space reduced by more than 50%. Stores average 164 seconds per customer from drive up to pull out. Water and energy saving and green inspired cooking. These are results that they had. So challenges facing operation managers: develop and produce safe, high quality and green products, retrain and motivate employees in a safe workplace, honor stakeholder commitments, and you know what stakeholders are, right? Those with the vested interest in an organization, including customers, distributors, suppliers, owners, lenders, employees.